Yeah. Well, it's time for the meeting. James is here. He's got it down. Good evening. This is great. How are you? On time like always, huh? I know.
Hey, early's on time.
Your clock's,
It's 6:50.
your clock's fast. It's 6:59.
1 minute to spare.
Is this like a bar? I mean, you got to turn way up. Not that I've ever been in such a place, but I've heard they keep the clocks turned up a little bit.
All right, let's go.
Okay, you ready to go? Angel?
Ready, 7.
It's 7 o'clock. Call the meeting to order. This is the official council agenda for the city of Hannibal, Tuesday, June 15th, 2021. We're in council chambers at 7 p.m. Ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember McCoy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Here.
Councilmember Franke?
Here.
Mayor Hark? Councilmembers Bowen?
Here.
Welch?
Here.
And Veach?
Here.
Okay, there being a quorum present, I call this meeting to order. I'd ask Councilman McCoy to do the invocation, please.
Heavenly Father, as we come together tonight to conduct the business of the city, pray for the strength and wisdom to make the best decisions possible for the citizens. We also pray for the safety of our first responders and all employees of the city. Thank you for allowing us the time to come together tonight. For all these things in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Angel, would you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Need a motion to excuse the mayor?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Mayor is excused. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I need a motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Approval of minutes of the regularly scheduled council meeting of June 1st, 2021. Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Approval of payroll and claims, first half of June 2021. Need a motion to approve.
Motion. Second.
Is there any discussion? Payroll and claims? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Next on the agenda is Mr. Ray Harvey. Ray Harvey Art. Come forward, sir. The request is a partial parking lot closure for mural painting, July the 12th through the 31st.
That is correct.
Can you tell us what you're doing? I know what you're doing, but can you tell everybody else?
I decided to paint mural number 14 in Hannibal, and I was commissioned by Dutch Country Market on the large wall. It's a 140-foot wide wall. We're only doing 70 feet wide, but in that 70 feet, there are quite a few parking spaces I'm going to have to block off for safety and security and what have you. I don't need all of those 9 spaces every day. I will cone them off and rope them off. I'm not that fast. I can paint 70 feet in one day, but maybe a couple here, a couple there, but up to 9 parking spaces I think will cover it.
Okay. The council have questions? We're still in need of a certificate of insurance.
I have that on my phone. I can email it or what have you.
Just, yeah, get us to the city clerk.
Okay, very good.
Motion to approve. Pending insurance.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is Mark Kempker, Hannibal Community Promotions Group. Request for discharge of fireworks in the city limits, the 4th of July celebration on Sunday, July the 4th, 2021 at dusk.
Yes, good evening, council. So I come before you to ask permission in order for the Hannibal Community Promotions Group to launch our fireworks that we'll be doing for the annual July 4th event. We've filed all the paperwork, permit through Angel and everything like that. We do have a alternative date of the 5th if we have a rain date.
Okay.
Any questions? We do want to thank the city also for their donation within to help make that happen.
No calls from HPD. Fire department didn't object. Looks like a certificate of insurance to hold harmless is the only thing that need to complete.
Perfect.
Okay.
Get that taken care of.
Motion to approve pending insurance.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion approved. Thank
We
you, Mark.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is Gordon Ibsen, retired Economic Development Director, regarding the Hannibal bypass study.
Good evening, esteemed members of the council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to ask you to support having a study done of the bypass. And I'm going to go into that a little bit more. As some of you know, 5 years ago I retired after 40 years plus in doing business development, community development, and economic development in 7 U.S. states, and teaching that across the United States and in 5 states and territories of Australia. During that time, I had an opportunity to look at a number of communities that have seen bypasses. We've had the great fortune in northeast Missouri, actually the tri-states area, to have some very good visionaries since 1993, particularly in transportation, including Tom Boland, Tom Oakley, and Harriet Beard. They were instrumental, along with many others, in getting the Avenue of the Saints 4-lane all the way from St. Louis to St. Paul, Minnesota. And if any of you have driven that route, as I did many times when I was doing business recruiting trips to the Twin Cities, you'll note that there are only 10 traffic lights along the entire route. 3 of them are in Cedar Falls, Iowa. The other 7 are here in Hannibal. A number of years ago, there was a small city in the Midwest whose main access was 2-lane highways that went right through the main retail area of the town. At some point, I don't know who or why, they decided to build a bypass around that town. And I'm sure at that time, a number of merchants, retailers, other business owners probably opposed that bypass. But ultimately, they did go ahead and build that bypass. Yes, it adversely affected some of the retailers, but others moved out along the bypass and were able to expand because they had more room to do so. They also had a number of new businesses come to town, both manufacturing and retail and lodging and restaurants and so forth. And that did their community a world of good. It increased their tax base, it increased the number of jobs in the community. That city was Hannibal. And the bypass is McMaster's Avenue. But the situation out there has changed. And we need to look at what's going forward. If what you are being asked to support is simply a study. When I was in the reserves in Ohio, we were taught as officers that we should seek out the best intel on which to base decisions. Same is true in business and in government. And that is all the study is going to do, is give us intelligence on which to base a good decision. There's no reason not to support a study. If we don't support the study, then collectively, we, the citizens of Hannibal, through you, our elected representatives, are burying our heads in the sand, saying, my mind is made up, don't bother me with the facts.
Thank you, Mr. Ibs. Next on the agenda is Lewis Riggs, our 5th District representative, in regards to approval of the Hannibal bypass study.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. It's like deja vu all over again. As you might recall, June 1st, we had a vote. It ended up in a tie. The mayor invited me back to tee this up again, and here we are. I just wanted to do a couple updates. Folks that had supplied additional letters of support, including Hannibal Regional Hospital, Klingner. General Mills is not able to be here this evening, but have also expressed support. Rawls County Commission. And perhaps most importantly, the conversation I had with the superintendent of Hannibal Public Schools within the last 2 weeks. And I did not realize this until that conversation, but the Hannibal Public Schools have for a number of years done tabletop exercises. The what-if scenario, if a toxic spill or crash or explosion or whatever happened at one of the 2 stoplights, 168 or Pirate Pride Drive, that have over 1,000 students within a quarter mile of them, and Pirate Pride Drive right between the 2 campuses itself. And the question was, what do we do if our students cannot breathe? How fast can we evacuate? What does the emergency plan look like? Pretty serious stuff involving lives of young people. And again, this is something, we don't take this lightly. This is not a game. We're not playing this for any reason except to make sure that we have the safest route possible through this town and the most advantageous route. And at this moment, we're not looking at that. And I've also been watching what's happened in other parts of the state as far as distribution centers, logistics, supply chain. We know as a result of COVID that is of vital importance to all of us. I saw recently where Moberly is attracting over $50 million of new investment for a new plant. Moberly was bypassed by 63 several years ago. They're not suffering. Also taking a look at distribution centers all over the state. The only corner of the state that's not getting distribution centers is Northeast. That would be us. So I again would ask you to reconsider the last vote in favor of a study which determines options. They generate, I believe, 16 or 17 routes. The last time in 1996 this was done. I don't know how many routes we would be looking at this moment, because 36 at that moment was not 4-lane, it is now. So I don't know what that does until the study itself is held. And I just want to close with comments from 2008. And when we were putting together Northeast Missouri Development Partnership, a number of us got together, and I think maybe some of the folks behind me were there. We basically went around the room. It was at Parker Theater at HLG, and people stood up and said, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. And everybody remembers Tom Bolin and Tom Bolin's rather straightforward way of handling things. And Tom had had enough. And Tom, he just finally stood up and said, what we need is more people. If we had more people, these problems would take care of themselves. This is how we get more people. And I'll take any questions this time. Thank you again for your consideration.
Council have questions of Representative Riggs?
I'd like to say a couple things. Thanks again for coming to this meeting. I do stand behind my vote from last time. I don't vote and, be mad about it, the next meeting or anything like that. The economics is well over my head. I went to tech school for 2 years. I mean, it's hard to wrap my head around that kind of stuff. The only thing I can get behind is the safety of it with school and stuff like that. So moving the big trucks out would be a good plan. So for that, I will be voting yes tonight. But like I said, I still stand behind everything I said last meeting, but the safety is about the only thing I can stand behind, so.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to,
Can I speak for a second? Thank you. In the past few weeks, I've continued to ask questions and learn, and it seems that there are three main reasons that you guys want a 61 bypass. First is traffic, and I think it's important to note that there's a difference between congestion and traffic. We have no congestion, and I think we should be grateful for the traffic. Second reason is safety. So far, I've not seen any data that suggests there is an epidemic of accidents on Highway 61 in Hannibal. Even if there were, I think throwing money at a new highway is far and above the most expensive way to solve that problem. Third reason is to promote logistics-related growth. I've communicated with an executive at a developer of logistics warehousing, and I've also spoken to a friend who owns and operates a logistics firm. Both believe that removing Highway 61 from Hannibal will not change our fortunes simply because we do not have the population to support the demand or the requisite labor forces. For these reasons, as a city council person, I still oppose any momentum on a bypass. Aside from my elected role as a tax-paying Missourian, this is a bad idea. The highways and interstates in Missouri are not good. And I think we should be investing our money in repairing them instead of spending money on bright, new, and unneeded things. Thank you for letting me speak.
I just got a comment about no congestion. I know you're not an emergency services person, Stefan, but anybody that's an emergency services person Friday at 5 o'clock would argue that we do have congestion problems on a 61 highway. Safety is of utmost concern. It just makes sense to, if we can move the highway out around the hospital someplace to relieve the congestion and also provide for the safety of our school children that are in school, the majority of the year, that's the way we ought to go. And this is just a study to, come back with recommendations of where that road might go. So I just have to argue a couple of your points.
Thank you.
make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign a letter of support from the city of Hannibal for the Hannibal bypass study.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Councilmember McCoy,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson.
Yes.
Councilmember Franke,
Nay.
Councilmembers Bowen,
Yes.
Welch,
Yes.
and Veach.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, council. Under my name, approval of reappointments and appointments, Hannibal Library Board for second reading, Annie Dixon, a reappointment for a term to expire June of 2024. Kevin Knickerbocker, a reappointment for a term to expire June 2024. And Frank DiTilio, reappointment for a term to expire June 24. Need a motion to approve? Motion and second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Moving on to the Mark Twain Home Board, second reading for Lewis Riggs for an appointment for a term to expire November 2028. Need a motion to approve?
Make the motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Recommendation of reappointment, Municipal Assistance Corporation, first reading for Michael Holliday. Reappointment for a term to expire June 2024. No roll call needed there. And the Hannibal Tree Board, first reading, Susan Welker, an appointment for a term to expire September 2024. No recall or no roll call there. Next on the agenda is Alan Bowen, 4th Ward Council Member. Code Amendment, Chapter 17, Article 7, Utility Terrain Vehicles. Mr. Bowen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. tonight have the official ordinance for the UTV that we've been working on. Scroll down to it here. It might not be. Is it?
Separate from the actual ordinance itself.
Oh, okay. We've had lots of changes. Went through a few different iterations, of course. I would like to actually amend what we have for tonight, if possible. The insurance says a requirement of $500,000. I'd like to change that to say liability of $500,000 or full coverage insurance. I think if you have full coverage on your UTV, which I know a lot of people already do, that should be enough if you already have full coverage, or a liability policy of $500,000. So I think that would meet everything we need to. So if that would work.
Counselor, do you have any input?
I have no idea. I'm not an insurance attorney. I don't know what the provisions of a full coverage policy mean. But
I know you
could.
helped him with that, so I didn't know if you'd had seen anything else. Or
We worked on the legal language, but in regards to insurance coverage, I have to plead ignorance and say I'm certainly willing to do some research, but as we sit here today, I'm not qualified to tell you.
That was just the biggest thing that citizens reach out to me about. The insurance was being there's a lot of people that already have full coverage and they don't want to have to change their policy just to meet that. So,
Councilman, one thing that you and I had not discussed, and I apologize, I didn't realize we were going, well, I knew when I got here, but I did not know that we were going to go ahead and take it up for a first reading.
okay.
I'm concerned that some of the provisions regarding some forms that would have to be promulgated and some discussions that we would need to have with mechanics in town regarding what would have to be done. I don't think that we can effectively make this go by the second reading, and I would request that we have it not go into effect for 60 days after the final vote in order to give the city time to promulgate the inspection forms and those things. I'm very concerned that if everybody just suddenly floods into City Hall and says, okay,
Right.
we're ready for these things, if we don't have the forms and we have not figured out the procedures, it's going to be very problematic.
Okay.
Since there's amendments to the ordinance itself and you need time to do research, would you recommend that we table this until another meeting?
If I get my 60 days from the next reading, I don't care. And I don't know that it will actually take 60, but I talked to Lieutenant Grody, and we felt like that would probably give us time to make sure that all our forms and things were ready. I don't mean to put words into her mouth, but that I think she agreed with me when I thought that. So
Sounds reasonable to me. Yeah.
if the council wants to move it forward, I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with making that amendment if that's what you all want to do. I can't opine on the legal effect of that regarding insurance, but in regard to the other, I'm comfortable with the ordinance so long as you give me a little time for us to get all our forms and things together.
up to 60 days wording work for you to get it done earlier than.
That's fine. I just, again, I didn't want to, if we're going to do this, I didn't want to shorten the time because I think it would be, like I say, a logistic nightmare for
No, I
people
agree.
coming into City Hall when they weren't ready.
Absolutely.
I have a question, Alan.
Yep.
Maybe I should know this, but hopefully you do. What's the requirement for a normal car, insurance-wise?
It depends on what you want to pay. You could have $100,000, $200,000, $500,000, $1 million.
Is there a minimum? I know it's required by the state.
It might be $100,000. I'm not really sure.
Sorry, everybody's talking about.
I'm sorry, I believe the state minimum is 100,000.
Thank you.
I'm also not an
thank-
insurance person, so I'm not really sure. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's different tiers. So you could pay minimum or as much as you want.
But our minimum would be essentially the same as the states for vehicles, what you're shooting for. If the information we're working with is right.
And we can verify.
Yeah,
Again,
I assume so.
I apologize. I'm just not an insurance expert regarding, I don't know specifically how full coverage works, and I was going to have to consult somebody. But having prosecuted people for not having insurance, I do recall seeing the 100,000 minimum. So,
Thank you. Also, Alan, thank you for coming on your son's first birthday.
You're welcome. It's important. So,
It
you know.
it is, I guess part of my concern is that if you look up what the requirements are of a person doing a vehicle inspection, they have to have a year in a garage or a year in a technical school, and that's looking at the safety of, cars and trucks. I don't believe that they study UTVs. I don't know that they'd be authorized to safety inspect a UTV. Also, in the ordinance, you're talking about a $50 inspection fee. The state max is $12.
That's a state inspection.
That's a state inspection.
This would be our inspection for our ordinance. I don't find anything that bars us because state law says you can only allow UTVs on highways if allowed by a local ordinance. So our local structures, we're not asking to do a state inspection. You are authorized to do state inspections, or inspections, and the reason for a higher cost is two. As you point out, it's not going to be very custom. There may be some learning, and so if they have to do some additional study, et cetera, at the minimum that the state requires, most mechanics aren't going to be. Whereas if they're making additional inspections, they're going to be inspections.
So we had anybody agree to do the inspection?
That's part of why I want the 60 days is to see if we can get some feedback from mechanics.
Seems like a short amount of time to try to put something together.
It is not a long period of time, but I also did not want to thwart the councilman. I'd like to move forward on it, and I tried to look at what I thought would be a reasonable time for me to promulgate the documents and us to talk to City Hall about how these. But if I don't disagree with you, Mayor Pro Tem, if you're saying, oh, I think James needs 90 or 120 days, I'm not going to fight you on that.
I just really don't know whether to do this now or wait till the vote, but if you want to Google UTVs, there's several things you can read, and the number one concern is there's an inherent risk for rollovers. And I'm just reading from one of the websites. Side-by-sides become commercially available in 2003. Concerns about risk of rollovers. Side-by-sides are small off-road vehicles that accommodate as many as 6 people. Situated side-by-side since they became commercially available in 2003. Side-by-side small road vehicles that accommodate as many as 6 people in seats that are situated side-by-side in pairs. There have been concerns about the risk of rollovers. In just the way the side-by-sides are built, they are narrow, top-heavy. Many models are able to travel speeds as fast as 60 miles an hour. If you're considering purchasing one, the most inherent injuries are broken bones, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injuries, even death. The list of side-by-side vehicle goes on and on. Do a quick search of the Consumer Product Safety Commission website, and you'll see that there have been numerous recalls on side-by-sides over the last 4 years. Product defects include faulty door hinges, overheating engines, fuel leaks, braking issues. Those recalls can cause severe and sometimes lifelong injuries, including burns, lacerations, paralysis, even death. Before considering the purchase of a side-by-side vehicle, check out the Consumer Product Safety Commission website to ensure you're considering one with a windshield, a steering wheel, adjacent seats, and side-by-side vehicle locks are an awful lot like a car, which leads many new users to believe they just are just as safe. They're not. Side-by-side vehicles lack both the stability and safety features enjoyed by traditional automobiles. Don't let the visual similarities lull you into the false sense of security. When it comes to side-by-sides, it's important to understand your abilities and your experience as an ATV owner and ride accordingly. Just something I looked up in about 5 minutes online. And we want these on our streets. Just my take on it.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, we have hundreds of thousands of cars that get sold probably every day with millions of recalls by the top 3 manufacturers, not just these side-by-sides. Nobody is saying that UTVs are, tanks. We allow scooters and motorcycles. We have speed limits. The fastest you can go through town is 35, except up on the highway by Wendy's, but that's 45. Other than that, it's 35. Cars can go 300 plus miles an hour, but we still have speed limits. So them being able to run 60 miles an hour isn't really that important.
So in your ordinance, you require an orange flag exceeding 2 feet above the top of the vehicle and also an orange triangle. What's the purpose of that?
Awareness. I mean, so they stick out more.
Why do they have to be any more aware than a car?
We're trying to make this as enforceable as possible for HPD.
Cars are common practice. UTVs are kind of an outlier.
Correct. And so if we try to make the requirements for the UTV not strict, but stricter than just, here you go, here's a permit, I feel it will weed out the people who don't want to follow the rules of putting blinkers on their UTV or adding mirrors or whatever. So adding a triangle, which is usually okay in Center or New London or anywhere else, adding a flag would also be just more visual. So, I mean, motorcycles don't have big flags, so I think adding this extra couple of orange things to it would be important. So maybe it could cut down on those fatalities.
And then in your ordinance also, you line out that it needs to have a vehicle identification number on it. The size of that's not spelled out in the ordinance. The size of the numbers.
Right. It does say visibly, easily visible by HPD driving by. So, I mean, whatever that.
Councilman Bowen, we had talked about that. I think what we discussed was because your original version had a size that was larger than HPD felt was practical.
Right.
And I don't know if you recall, we discussed it and said, if we're printing the stickers, we can make them any size we want. So I mean, there was a size that HPD's concern was that it was of a size that was going to be too large to be put in a place where it's going to be easily visible. And there were some discussions about, well, should it be license plate sized and et cetera, et cetera. And what we finally came down to was, well, if we're going to do this, if we print the stickers or the placards or whatever, we can make them whatever size that is deemed appropriate. Again, I was looking for that 60 days to work on.
And then if I interpreted the last meeting that our own police department was against having these UTVs on our streets, am I correct in that assumption, Chief?
Against, as in,
As opposed to the allowing? Yes?
correct.
That's a slippery slope to put us in. So, reality happened was months ago, we were asked by Councilman to investigate this. I signed it to do research, pro and con, to find out more about these. We're not experts in these. And she tried to present you with that information. But what you did, you asked her personally, and I think her answer was, no, she didn't prove it. But this is up to the council to decide whether or not they feel this is the best thing for this community. And then we will do our best, if you pass this ordinance, to enforce it. But this lies on your shoulders. If this turns out to be a positive or negative, not on the police department. We'll do our part. It's up to you to do your part on this. She's done a lot of research on that. If you want to ask her any questions, I assure you, I went over everything with her many times, and she has given you an honest information that she was, her research has determined, as well as talking to some vendors about this, more people are experts in this field. Now, they did say they were not supportive, so they sell it. But ultimately, this is your decision. It's not the police or the fire. You have to live with the good and bad of this.
Thank you, Chief.
I mean, as technology evolves, you're already intertwining things anyway. You've got the three-wheel little spider side-by-side things or whatever that are like a side-by-side. I mean, it's just going to continue to evolve. So, I mean,
Okay.
I think people are going to do it, and we have a responsibility to make sure they do it as safely as possible.
Okay, bill number 21-017 to follow. Next on the agenda is Lisa Peck, City Manager, approval of reappointments.
Good evening. I have before you tonight the reappointment of Bill Fisher for the Hannibal Board of Public Works for a term to expire July of 2025.
Need a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Next.
And then I have also before you Hannibal Board and, Hannibal Park and Rec Board, Tricia O'Sheltry for a reappointment for a term to expire July 2024. Talia Mayfield, reappointment for a term to expire July 2024.
That's first reading, so no roll call on that. On to Phyllis Nelson, City Collector, approval of budget adjustments for the fiscal year ended 2020, 2021. Phyllis?
Thank you. I'm here tonight, as I am every year, asking to be allowed to do budget adjustments after the close of the fiscal year. You all receive, your copies, and that is before I do these. And then, anyone chooses after the fact, so, adjustment. But I don't move any funds, and I don't change any expenditures other than the budgeted amount to start with, and don't even get involved in the revenues. But I need permission every year to do this year after the end of
Questions? Motion to approve. A second?
Second.
No discussion, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Phyllis.
Thank you.
Next up is Edie Rotman, DPW Management Assistant, bid award approval, annual streets materials and aggregates.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. I just have the one agenda item this evening. On June 9th, the Street Department went out for bids for our annual rock supply. We received one bid from Central Stone. This will be for our next fiscal year's rock, sand items like that. I'm just asking for approval of that bid.
Are these locked in for the whole year then, I guess? Like
Yeah.
they won't change at all? Okay, just making sure.
All of them went up, a slight increase over last year, but that's everything else, everything went up, so.
Thank you.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Edie. Next is Karen Burdick, Director of Finance, fiscal year 2021-2022 payroll ordinance as amended.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. After our last meeting, we discovered a mistake on the payroll ordinance for the city collector's part-time salary. The hours had been increased, but the formula had not on the payroll spreadsheet that we had. The increase was reflected on the budget, so we don't have to do any changes on the budget. But I'm asking for the amendment of the payroll ordinance to increase for the amounts that I have on the memo. Any questions?
Bill number 21-016 is amended to follow them. Thank you.
Second item is I'm asking to set a public hearing at our next council meeting, July 6th at 6:45. The reason for this is to let citizens be aware that we would like to apply for an additional USDA rural development grant to purchase Mosewind radios for both the police and the fire department. This is a very large purchase, and Chief Davis has been making us aware that for several years, that we are going to need to do that. And this is a good time to go ahead and apply for the grant to help us. Also, 911 is contributing, and they're giving us 6 months to take advantage of their contribution. So that makes it very important to go ahead and move forward at this time. The 35% from USDA would help immensely. So I'm asking for your all's approval to set the meeting for July 6th.
I have a motion to set a public hearing for Tuesday, July the 6th at 6:45 PM.
Second.
All those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin. Gail Bryant, Director of the Hannibal Conventions and Visitors Bureau, bid waiver request, media buys.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, I'm here again this evening to ask for a bid waiver for our media buys. This is something we have done for the last couple of years. We did go out for a quote with an agency, and it was 10%. This advertising funds are outside our grant, and we will go up to $125,000. So with the 10% that they proposed, the board decided that for $12,500, we probably could use that money for Facebook advertising and keeping it in-house. We are getting some good prices from our vendors, and so they feel that we will not be getting a significant benefit by going to an agency this year. So I'm happy to answer any questions. It's just for the 1 year.
I have a few questions.
Sure.
In this day and age, what's the breakdown of where you're spending your media buys in terms of TV, radio, print, billboards, social media?
Okay, we get our best return on our social media, which is, of course, our website, and then we do Facebook and we do Instagram. Those are the best demographics that meet what we're targeting. But, we do different campaigns, and so they change. But Facebook being now is evolving to an older demographics, and that's where we are mostly. It'll be mostly social. We do other things because now you have driving destination, because a lot of people were just recovering from the pandemic. So we may do some billboards and things like that. But we do a strategic plan each January with the board, so we have an idea what we're going to do for the whole year. The year starts in July, and we do a fall campaign and we do a spring campaign. So we're pretty much on track, and we know where we want to be.
Who are you targeting?
We target women because they are the decision makers, 25 and 65 and older. But then again, each campaign is different because it depends on what we're targeting. We will not use the same, that's like for a general vacation to Hannibal. But like if we market like Twain on Main, we're going to do a different demographics than what we would do for the Great Girlfriend Getaway or Steampunk or whatever, event that we would be targeting.
So what I'm hearing is that sometimes you're doing hyper-specific ads for specific age groups, locations, and events.
Yes.
Cool. What are some of the locations that we target?
We target Springfield, Illinois, because of course Abraham Lincoln. We also look at Columbia, Missouri. In the spring, we focus on St. Louis. In the fall, because everybody goes south for the winter, we look further north and west.
Cool. Thank you. Seems like you guys are doing a good job.
Any other questions?
Motion to approve waiver.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Move on to bill number 21-015. I need a motion to have the clerk give the bill a second and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Bill number 21-015, an ordinance approving the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget and appropriating to the various departments, boards, commissions, and agencies of the city government of the city of Hannibal, Missouri for fiscal year end June 30th, 2022. Second and final reading. Councilmember McCoy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmember Franke?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
And Beach?
Yes.
I declare bill number 20-015 duly approved and adopted on this day. Bill number 21-0116 is amended. I need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a second and final reading as amended.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Bill number 21-016, as amended, an ordinance to pay officers and employees of the City of Hannibal, Missouri for fiscal year 2021-2022, second and final reading. Councilmember McCoy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmembers Franke?
Yes.
Bowen?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
And Beach.
Yes.
I declare Bill number 21-016 duly approved and adopted on this day. Bill number 21-017, need a motion to have the clerk give this bill a first reading
As amended.
as amended.
Make the motion. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Councilmembers McCoy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
No.
Councilmember Franke?
Yes.
Councilmembers Bowen?
Yes.
Councilmembers Welch?
Yes.
And Beach.
Yes.
Motion carries. Bill number 21-017, as amended, an ordinance of the City of Hannibal revising Chapter 17, Article 7 of the revised ordinances of the City of Hannibal by adding certain sections pertaining to the operation of utility terrain vehicles. First reading.
Okay, moving to closed session, in accordance with RSMO 610.021 subsection 2. I need a motion to go into closed session in accordance with the before mentioned subparagraph admitting myself, council, city manager, city attorney, city clerk, Aswin Patel, and you have a guest? His name? Jeff Hampton. Jeff Hampton and Corey Mahaffey.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried.
Councilmember McCoy?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Dobson?
Yes.
Councilmember Franke? Yes. Councilmembers Bowen?
Yes.
Welch?
Yes.
And Beach.
Yes.
Closed session.